A new art installation going up this weekend in the Flats. That project started with one local woman's curiosity and compassion, asking people to submit their own personal stories, answering the question, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to do? Homa Bash shows us what it's all about in this News 5 original.
The hardest thing I ever had to do. The hardest thing I've ever done. The hardest thing I ever had to do is trying to swim.
It starts with a single question. What is the hardest thing you have ever had to do?
Everybody's got something, you know, and you never know what it is.
Allison Meyer recently started the crowdsourced storytelling project in Northeast Ohio. One question, one page, one person's story, like this one.
The hardest thing I've ever had to do was to tell medical staff to remove my 4-month-old daughter from the respirator that maintained her breathing. I had to do what was best for her. I had to let her go. I gave my consent. Every time I read one of the stories, I am just absolutely amazed by how strong people are.
Never ever give up is Allison's answer.
I started the project a few years after my mom died in a traffic accident. I had a hard time talking about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I was scared that I would make people sad. I would bum them out. I would be a burden.
But she found sharing was simply the start. The project has turned into an outlet for people across Northeast Ohio. The stories pouring in.
Coming out and telling your mom you're gay, leaving an abusive relationship, dealing with an overdose, learning division.
And in these words, in these stories, Allison has found new perspective herself. Something we could all probably use.
If someone's upset with me, or someone, cuts me off, or someone hangs up abruptly, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt that I don't know what's going on, and that I hope their day gets better. The hardest thing I ever had to do was
and that is only where the story begins.
The hardest thing I've ever had to do.
The hardest thing I ever had to do.
The hardest thing I've ever had to do.
The hardest thing I've ever had to do.
The hardest thing I ever had to do.
And the project has gotten such a great response in just a few months since it started that the art installation is actually going up here this weekend down in the Flats near Merwin's Wharf. It'll be rows and rows of people's stories and a bright yellow mailbox where you can respond to them with letters of hope. Reporting in Cleveland, Homa Bash, News 5.